Have you ever felt completely surrounded by enemies? When danger seems to close in from every direction, and you're desperately searching for safety? In 1993, during the siege of Sarajevo, a group of civilians found themselves trapped in a basement for 3 days as artillery shells pounded their neighborhood. With no food, dwindling water, and the constant threat of death, they did something remarkable. They began to pray, not just for rescue, but curiously, for justice. Not vengeance, but true justice. What's the difference? And why does it matter in our darkest hours? The answer lies in an ancient prayer written approximately 3,000 years ago by a man who knew what it meant to be hunted. His name was David, future king of Israel, but at the time, simply a fugitive running for his life from King Saul. Around 1010 BCE, hiding in caves and wilderness, David composed what we now know as Psalm 17, a desperate yet confident plea for divine protection based not on his perfection, but on his sincere pursuit of righteousness. Today, we're going to explore this profound prayer that has comforted countless people across millennia during their own moments of crisis. This isn't just ancient poetry, it's a masterclass in how to approach God when your integrity is questioned and your very survival hangs in the balance. The prayer begins with an urgent appeal. David writes, "Hear me, Lord, my plea is just, listen to my cry. Hear my prayer, it does not rise from deceitful lips." Notice how David approaches God, with boldness yet humility. In ancient Hebrew culture, around 1000 BCE, approaching a king without permission could mean death. Yet David, understanding the character of God, comes directly with his request. He doesn't begin with flattery or elaborate ritual. Instead, he appeals to two things: God's character as a just judge and his own sincerity. David isn't claiming perfection. According to Hebrew scholars, the phrase, "my plea is just," carries the connotation of righteous cause, rather than personal flawlessness. David knows he has flaws, as we see in other psalms where he openly confesses sin, but in this specific situation, he maintains his integrity. In verses 2 to 5, David continues, "Let my vindication come from you, may your eyes see what is right. Though you probe my heart, though you examine me at night and test me, you will find that I have resolved not to sin with my mouth. As for the deeds of others, by the word of your lips I have kept myself from the ways of the violent. My steps have held to your paths, my feet have not stumbled." Here David invites divine scrutiny, a bold move. Imagine inviting the all-knowing Creator to examine your deepest thoughts and motives. Archaeological findings from ancient Israel reveal that legal proceedings typically occurred at the city gates, with judges carefully weighing testimony. David applies this familiar concept to his relationship with God, but with a crucial difference: God sees everything, including the heart. The Hebrew word for test here, saraf, was used for the refining of precious metals. It's a process where gold or silver is heated until impurities rise to the surface and can be removed. David is saying, "Examine me thoroughly, test me like precious metal, and you'll find my heart is genuine." By verse 6, we begin to understand the dire circumstances behind this prayer. "I call on you, my God, for you will answer me. Turn your ear to me and hear my prayer. Show me the wonders of your great love, you who save by your right hand those who take refuge in you from their foes." Historical context is crucial here. Around 1010 BCE, David was literally running for his life. 1 Samuel chapters 18 to 26 document how King Saul, consumed by jealousy, launched a nationwide manhunt for David. With spies in every town and soldiers combing the wilderness, David had nowhere to turn. His life hanging by a thread, David appeals to God's great love, the Hebrew word chesed, which encompasses faithfulness, mercy, and covenant loyalty. In verses 8 to 9, David uses beautiful, intimate imagery. Keep me as the apple of your eye, hide me in the shadow of your wings from the wicked who are out to destroy me, from my mortal enemies who surround me. The phrase, apple of your eye, refers to the pupil, the most protected part of the body. When dust approaches your eye, you don't think about protecting it, your body reacts instantaneously. That's the level of protection David seeks. The imagery of wings comes from mother birds who shelter their young beneath their wings during danger, a metaphor God uses repeatedly throughout Scripture to describe His protective care. According to ornithologists, many bird species will actually risk their own lives to protect their young, spreading their wings as a shield against predators. This natural behavior provided David, who spent years as a shepherd in the Judean wilderness, a perfect illustration of divine protection. In verses 10 to 12, David describes his enemies. They close up their callous hearts, and their mouths speak with arrogance. They have tracked me down, they now surround me, with eyes alert, to throw me to the ground. They are like a lion hungry for prey, like a fierce lion crouching in cover. The Hebrew word for callous here, keleb, literally means fat, and was used metaphorically to describe someone insensitive or hard-hearted. In ancient Near Eastern culture, fat could represent prosperity but also indulgence and unresponsiveness. David's enemies have prospered but become arrogant and callous. The lion metaphor would have resonated deeply with David's original audience. Lions were common in ancient Israel until the early 20th century, with the last one recorded in the region around 1918. Both shepherds and travelers greatly feared these predators. Unlike many modern hunting techniques that rely on speed, lions often stalk their prey patiently, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, exactly how David felt about his pursuers. In verses 13 to 14, David boldly calls for divine intervention. Rise up, Lord, confront them, bring them down, with your sword rescue me from the wicked. By your hand save me from such people, Lord, from those of this world whose reward is in this life. May what you have stored up for the wicked fill their bellies, may their children gorge themselves on it, and may there be leftovers for their little ones. Notice the shift here. David doesn't take vengeance himself, even though historical records in 1 Samuel show he had at least 2 opportunities to kill Saul. Instead, he appeals to God's justice. The plea recognizes a fundamental truth about reality: without divine intervention, often the wicked prosper while the righteous suffer. Archaeological findings across the ancient Near East confirm that concepts of divine justice were deeply embedded in various cultures from 2000 to 500 BCE. However, Israel's understanding was unique in attributing ultimate justice to a single, moral deity rather than capricious gods who might favor the strong regardless of moral considerations. The psalm concludes with a remarkable statement of confidence in verse 15. As for me, I will be vindicated and will see your face. When I awake, I will be satisfied with seeing your likeness. This final verse has fascinated biblical scholars for centuries. While some interpret it as referring to resurrection, others see it as David's confidence that he will be vindicated in this life and continue in relationship with God. Either way, it expresses profound trust that God's justice will ultimately prevail, and more importantly, that being in God's presence is the greatest reward. Now, what does this ancient prayer mean for us today? In a world where injustice seems rampant, where according to the Global Peace Index 2024, over 2 billion people live in countries with high levels of conflict, how does Psalm 17 speak to our modern condition? First, it teaches us about integrity under pressure. David maintained his righteousness not because he was perfect, but because he remained committed to God's path even when taking shortcuts seemed justified. In our world of moral compromises, where the ends often justify the means, this commitment to integrity stands as a powerful countercultural witness. A 2023 study by the Ethics and Compliance Initiative found that 45% of U.S. workers observed unethical conduct in their organizations, often influenced by pressure to compromise standards to achieve goals. Psalm 17 reminds us that integrity matters, even, especially, when it's difficult. Second, Psalm 17 offers us language for honest prayer. David doesn't sanitize his emotions or dress up his language. He comes before God exactly as he is, desperate, fearful, yet confident in God's character. In our age of curated social media personas, where even our spiritual lives can become performances, David's raw honesty is refreshing and instructive. Dr. Sarah Peterson, professor of psychology at Cambridge University, noted in her 2022 study on prayer and mental health, authentic expression of emotions in prayer, including negative emotions like fear and anger, correlates strongly with improved psychological well-being compared to suppression or spiritual bypassing. David knew this intuitively thousands of years before modern psychology confirmed it. Third, Psalm 17 teaches the crucial distinction between vengeance and justice. Vengeance seeks to hurt those who hurt us. Justice seeks to restore right relationships. David doesn't ask to personally harm his enemies, he asks God to uphold justice. This distinction is crucial in our polarized world where retribution often masquerades as justice. According to conflict resolution experts, vengeful responses typically escalate conflicts, creating cycles of retaliation. True justice, by contrast, addresses underlying issues and seeks restoration where possible. A 2024 report from the International Institute for Restorative Practices found that approaches focused on restoration rather than punishment reduced recidivism by up to 40% in certain contexts. Fourth, Psalm 17 demonstrates the power of confident dependence. David's prayer exhibits both deep trust and urgent need. He doesn't passive-aggressively hint at what he wants, he directly asks for protection. Yet he does so from a position of trust rather than demand. This balanced approach, confident yet dependent, offers us a model for our own prayers. Psychologists have identified this balance as crucial for mental resilience. Dr. James Liu of Stanford University wrote in his 2023 paper on resilience, "The healthiest response to adversity combines active agency with an acceptance of circumstances beyond one's control." David's prayer exemplifies this psychological insight. Finally, Psalm 17 reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles. For 3 millennia, people across cultures and circumstances have turned to these words in their darkest moments. From persecuted Christians in 1st century Rome to civil rights activists in 1960s America, from concentration camp prisoners in 1940s Europe to refugees fleeing violence today, countless individuals have found their own experiences reflected in David's ancient prayer. In fact, manuscript evidence shows Psalm 17 was among the most copied passages in the Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered between 1947 and 1956 in the Qumran caves. Dating from approximately 250 BCE to 68 CE, these scrolls suggest that this particular psalm held special significance for the community that preserved these texts during another period of persecution and uncertainty. What makes Psalm 17 so enduring? Perhaps it's because it speaks to universal human experiences, the feeling of being surrounded by enemies, the question of whether integrity matters, the desperate hope that justice will prevail. Perhaps it's because it offers no simplistic answers while still affirming that our cries are heard by a God who sees beyond appearances to the heart. The famous theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer, writing from a Nazi prison in 1943 shortly before his execution, observed, the Psalms have been the prayer book of Jesus Christ and His Church precisely because they do not evade reality. They teach us to pray as we face life as it truly is. Psalm 17 certainly doesn't evade reality. It faces it squarely while reaching for transcendent hope. Let's return to where we began. When we find ourselves surrounded, when danger closes in, when our integrity is questioned, what do? Like David, we can come before God with honest hearts. We can invite divine scrutiny. We can appeal to true justice rather than vengeance. And we can rest in the confidence that we are seen, heard, and protected, not because we're perfect, but because we've chosen the path of righteousness. Remember those civilians trapped in the Sarajevo basement? When they were finally rescued after 3 days, journalists asked what had sustained them. One woman, her face gaunt but eyes clear, simply said, "We prayed not to be saved from our enemies, but from becoming like them." That made all the difference. Perhaps that's the ultimate lesson of Psalm 17. In our darkest moments, what we become matters as much as what happens to us. By maintaining integrity, seeking justice rather than vengeance, and trusting in divine protection, we emerge from our trials not just surviving, but transformed. The next time you feel surrounded, remember David's powerful words, "Keep me as the apple of your eye, hide me in the shadow of your wings." And remember that for 3,000 years, through war and peace, prosperity and famine, these words have carried people through their darkest hours. Now, they're yours as well. Before you go, I want to personally invite you to be part of our growing community here at Prayer Universe. If this video touched your heart or brought you peace, take a moment to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a prayer or message that can uplift your spirit. But most importantly, I'd love to hear from you. In the comments below, share just one word or phrase of motivation that this video inspired in you, whether it's hope, gratitude, peace, or something else. Your words matter deeply to us because they help guide the content we create for this channel. Together, let's build a space filled with faith, encouragement, and connection. Thank you for being here, and remember, every prayer counts. See you in the next one.